Hopefully this might be one of our last roll calls, but I'll let you conduct that.
Chairman Matt Martinez,
Present.
Commissioner Benito Pacheco,
Present.
Commissioner Meredith Brett, Commissioner Joseph Cruz is absent,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashley Arianes, Commissioner Joseph Dominguez.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have a quorum.
I think Mr. Cruz is still celebrating his birthday from the last meeting, so maybe we'll be able to catch up for some birthday cake. Well, I guess we'll stand and, let's see, this time it's Meredith's turn to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Thank you. I'm used to the high school band playing right after that, right?
Where are they?
Yeah, we need them now. We've got an agenda in front of us, and looks like that is probably what we have in store for today, unless someone has a change. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second? And a second by Joseph. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair, we have no public input this afternoon. Moving on
Okay.
to our discussion items.
It says here, review of completed assignments by our city attorney, Mr. Zamora.
Yes, sir.
So, now I did get a chance to print all the stuff, that you sent yesterday and this morning. But if you sent anything in the last hour or so, I didn't get it.
No, the only two emails I have to the commission are from last night. And then this morning, plus or minus around 11, I finished the remaining sections and emailed those out. And in front of us, we only have the ones from last night.
So I will step away and go print those other ones while you're discussing what.
Okay, so that would be Article 9
The
and
ones I
10?
sent this morning were 9 and 10.
Okay,
And then the proposal for 4 to 8 counselors and the proposal relating to compensation.
okay.
Those are what are not currently in your packet, but Cassandra, will-
So can we cover something else while she gets those?
we can cover 2 through 8 while she gets.
Okay, we can do that.
Uh,
I went ahead and printed mine because I could see what the changes were with the yellow,
Right,
the highlights.
and so, and I might have to pull some, oh yeah, this one's, her printouts have yellow highlights also. Okay, so, same standard as before. I've converted these all into, as you'll see from the heading, proposed administrative changes for charter. So, as it shows on the new business, there are 3 categories. We're looking at 3 different questions. Administrative changes, the number of counselors, and the compensation. And that's to keep number of counselors and compensation from messing with the administrative changes, okay? At least that seems to be the desire of the commission, and I think that's a good structure. So, I will cover the proposed administrative changes first. And these are the sort of updates and non-controversial type stuff. Highlights are what's new. So it's that same format. All the other strike through, all the other markup is stuff we've already seen. But now it's in this format of, here's the entire article with the edits to the article. So we'll start with Article 2. And just a refresher, in 2.01, we're cleaning up,
5.
yeah, we're cleaning up the 5 counselors to the 4 counselors, which it's supposed to be. And that complies with the law. Now, I've dealt with legislation before where if there's legislation and, bill number 1 passes and is signed by the governor, and then bill number 2 passes and is signed, and they both edit the same section, they implement them in order. And so you're gonna see when we get over to, the 4 to 8 proposal, that I've got some notations to say this will be, implemented after proposal 1. So we would clean it up to get 4 in order, in case 4 to 8 fails. But if 4 to 8 passes, then 1 will clean it up to 4, and then proposal 2 will move
These are
that
great.
4 to 8.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so that's what 2.01B is just clarifying the 4. That's review. As I was getting into 2.03A, the old language said counselor candidates, and, okay. Because I sent this out last night, I didn't clean this up. I cleaned it up this morning. So I said counselor candidates and elected counselors shall meet the qualifications required, because the law does say if you're elected and you move out of your district, it terminates. So I wanted to make sure it was elected counselors. I made one slight edit this morning, and I put an S there, selected counselors, because it also applies to the appointment of vacancies, and they're not elected. So selected counselors might be selected through an election or selected through a vacancy process. So I changed that word from elected to selected. Make sense? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, why would elected still be in there?
Because the law changed. If the elected, well, so I'm broadening the group. By changing it to selected, that's going to include electeds and vacancy people. But the law has changed to be much more clear. Before, if you were elected to a district and you moved out, it was opinion interpreted to be, oh, you served till the end of your term, even if you moved out. And then people fought as to try and get you out. And now the law is just much more clear. You move out,
You're out.
you're out. You create a vacancy upon moving out. So that's why that paragraph's so important. I think in B, I just forgot to delete the highlight there. I think that language had been deleted previously. So,
Where it says elected counselor.
elected counselors and candidates shall physically reside within the districts they represent. I deleted that because A clears it up. It just says you've got to comply with state statute. So that came out. That shouldn't have been highlighted. I did that accidentally. But it's good to remind you that that was taken out. So then we would move on to the next edits.
304D,
Yeah,
204D, I mean.
right. D. I deleted that again in this version because one, that language wasn't compliant with law before. And certainly isn't compliant with the new electoral law. So what this is saying in the redistricting process, and it happens a lot. Sometimes someone lives right next to a boundary. You hire a redistricting consultant and that boundary moves 1 block over and now nobody's in their district anymore. What this says, the redistricting provision shall not be construed so as to create a vacancy in the office of a counselor. All incumbent counselors shall be entitled to serve out their terms even if redistricting causes a city councilor to reside outside the district which that city councilor was elected to represent. Again, that's going to be contrary back to the new local election law that says if you don't reside in the district, you don't serve that district anymore. And so.
So what happens if you're right in the middle of your term and they do the census and they redistrict the community? and they're a block off, and you're out, you're automatically out if the council approves it, the redistricting map?
If they approve that map, then upon the map taking effect, which is usually not till the next election anyway,
Oh, okay.
then you're gonna be out when the map takes effect.
So let's say you just got in your 4-year term, and then they did the redistricting, 2 months into your 4-year term, the next election's at 2 years, right?
Right.
So you stay there till 2 years, and then after that, you have to move if it's approved for the next election.
Yeah, yeah, because that's when the districts will be applied at that next election.
Yeah. That's a mean way of getting rid of somebody, huh?
I've
By
witnessed
one
it.
block.
I've witnessed it.
You have?
I've seen it a few times. Sometimes intentional, just sometimes by natural growth. I saw it in Santa Fe
Yeah.
where someone was just right on the edge and all of Santa Fe's growth was down south, so it moved all the lines south. And this person went from, I think, District 2 to District 1 in the middle of that.
That's interesting.
So,
Yes, I just have a quick question, just to backtrack a second, Gino.
okay, yes.
If you look at, what is it, 203, 2.03 C.
See,
If the proposal from 4 to 8 is successful,
yes.
will we need some more language regarding the election? Or would that be part of that question?
It's part of the second question.
Okay.
It's part of, so these edits are just for how do we update where we are? Anything administrative will be how do we update where we are? When we go to 4 to 8, 4 to 8 has edits to C in it.
Okay.
Okay.
So if they vote on that question of 4 to 8, then we've got to change D in that proposal, or C, I'm sorry, C in that proposal. Otherwise, we wouldn't be changing C.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a good question. And you'll see that later when we get to that one. Okay, good question. So vacancy in office. I don't know why this is highlighted. It may have been just because I cut and pasted over. I don't recall any changes to this paragraph. It's just that I implemented the changes that you'd reviewed and approved prior. So that's again another inadvertent highlight. So C is what we've reviewed. Within 45 days of the vacancy, the mayor, with the approval of the council, shall appoint a qualified elector from the district to fill the vacancy. Wait, vacancy in office. Oh yeah, this is for council. Within the district, so it's only a qualified elector, it's not a member of the council, because that wouldn't make sense. From the district to fill the vacancy and who will serve until the next regular municipal election. Any person appointed pursuant, actually, this is a change, I'm sorry. Because I was going through 2, I was noticing that we didn't look beyond the initial proposals. We didn't necessarily.
So the underline's the new,
Underlined is the new.
Then you,
inside the highlighted.
Right.
Inside the highlighted,
Okay.
underlined is new. Yes,
And that lines us up with the state law act, the local election act.
it does. And the 45 days is our number, but it makes it consistent with everywhere that we've appointed a vacancy.
Okay.
Yeah, as you see, it used to say 15 days. And, we would have had 15 days, 45 days, 30 days, depending
Everything
on the
different.
circumstance. Now we're just making it uniform. So yes, these are changes. So any person appointed pursuant to this paragraph shall meet the qualifications. And I see a typo there. An extra space. Required by that section of the law is amended of the Local Election Act. That makes it consistent across the board with mayor and judge and all of those things. Okay, then D, yes, this was a cleanup also. So I found this, made it consistent with everybody else. At the next regular local election following the vacancy, the counselor position shall be placed on the ballot, either to fill the remaining 2 years left in the regular council position term, or for a 4-year term if the next regular local election coincides with the regular council position term. I cut and pasted this from mayor and switched out counselor for mayor, again for consistency. And the old language was not consistent with the new law. And I also deleted out so in D, I deleted out the language about special elections and all of that, because that doesn't apply anymore. And then E is also a reference to special election and who can vote and who not. And so I deleted that out. Okay. That then takes us to 2.07. The non-highlighted stuff is stuff we've reviewed before. And I carried it in from the proposal side in here. The first organizational meeting is now after the first day of January. The regular meeting on or after the first day of January.
Where you at, real quick?
We're 2.07,
Oh, okay.
governing body procedures, and it's on the top of the following page.
Organizational meeting under A?
Organizational
But that's
meeting.
not highlighted, right? It's just,
It's not highlighted because we've already reviewed and approved these edits.
Okay.
So I'm just refreshing your memory that we converted this to the new election schedule. And so the governing body at the first regular meeting on or after the first day of January following a municipal election.
okay.
So there was a lot of confusion because this language used to pertain to the March elections in the first meeting after the March election. Well, now that it's November election and January meeting, someone could read this to say, oh, we get to do an organizational meeting in November or in December, when really your council doesn't have any authority until January. So that's why we did those.
I think we talked about the vision and mission statement, remember?
Yeah,
And
yeah, we did. I didn't have any direction to take it out.
I guess the only thing is, and I'll ask Cassandra, the last few administrations, have they even studied that at the first organizational meeting at all?
No. They have not.
So is that like a bad thing if you don't, or it's just there if they want to?
We have one in place that's.
So they'll review it
that's
and say, man,
Stayed
we'll
in
just-
place, but they haven't reviewed it the last.
Because it's almost crazy, what if you're getting, like in the case of 2 years from now, if the 8 passes, we'll have 4 brand-new city councilors that come in January 1st, right? Or the meeting in January. They won't have a chance to go through any of that, they almost need a retreat.
Right. Reviewing the mission and vision statement and top 10 priorities. I mean, theoretically, that should just be a document that's prepared. Here it is. It's in your packet.
There's some language that's in state statute that we could actually put in there in its place and just leave it broad.
I don't remember that.
I would be in favor of making that a bit more broad. It seems kind of micro the way it's worded there. And I have to agree with Chairman Martinez here, reviewing the top 10 priorities of the previous administration and the mission and vision is something that's gonna take a bit more than a regular council meeting.
Right. The first one. So in case, and what if it's a new mayor too? So it could be a majority of the people coming on to the,
So this is the first official city council meeting after
an election.
the election, and they have regular business as well as this, correct? So it could just say something about, shall include, the purpose of organizing, reviewing the mission and vision statement, reviewing, et cetera. Just say the meeting would include that,
Or could include it.
could include it,
Or,
may.
I like the idea of there's state statute that governs what should take place at an initial meeting to be consistent with what we've done in other parts of the document.
Sure.
I would recommend that we follow that same format in this particular area as well.
And that's your understanding, Cassandra, that there's,
Yes.
So the clerk has that language on hand. Essentially, the organizational meeting over in the municipal code, and we've looked at it for being consistent. We don't have to follow it word for word, but we've looked at it for consistency. Really makes an organizational meeting, the only thing it talks about there really is the appointments of the individuals. So it doesn't contain anything about mission, vision statement, or top 10 priorities. So it would say, following shall convene for the purpose of organizing and confirming the appointment of the city manager and appointed officers.
so like if we added the word could, that doesn't mean they have to. And they could take it on down the road, 3 months, 6 months down the road and say, now we've just reviewed it, now we want to put together our top 10 list, plus this is our new vision and this is our new mission.
So I have a question. Does the current council even have a top 10 list? I'm not seeing that as a negative, I'm just asking.
They do have a list through the ICIP process. They do have that.
And the reason I ask is if we're referencing a list that possibly doesn't exist, then it wouldn't make sense to have it in there at all. That's what I'm getting at.
Those are their legislative priorities, right?
Correct.
The ICIP are, but the way Christmas has been going on in Santa Fe, there's stuff getting funded that never made it to an ICIP plan, okay, so I think we have to be very careful that we're not putting stuff in here that somebody's gonna say, well, you never did the top 10, you never reviewed the vision and mission. I'd say a safe word would be could,
So typically in drafting, we use may.
or may, yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
you're the legal guy.
but I took the language, I'll read it out to you. I took the language that's in there and just moved it to the end so that it would read, governing body at its first regular meeting on or after the first day of January following a municipal election shall convene for the purpose of organizing, and then I skip down, and confirming the appointment of the city manager and the appointed officers, comma, and may include reviewing the mission and vision statement, reviewing the top 10 and reviewing the top 10 priorities of the previously elected government.
That works.
And that's why I say you're the guy we need here in the room, so it's a done deal.
I'll take that.
Okay.
I think that takes care of that. Does that take care of your concern, Mr. Benito?
That's what, it takes care of my concern.
Okay, good. That's a good discussion.
That's a pretty fast decision on the fly, man. Don't you think that's pretty scary there? That's pretty quick. He even moved things around. Look at that. Oh,
I think I sat through about 80 city council meetings.
yeah, at least. Don't worry, everything that's on this document's been challenged in Las Vegas already, so we know it may come back again. History has a way of doing that.
Right. Okay, so that's a good addition that I will, or a good revision that I will, we will make. And what we're going to look at the end of each of these, I'll present them now and we'll make our edits now, and then you have action items later to approve them. And then I'll make the edits that you've requested. Okay, so meetings, again, it's not highlighted. These are things we've gone over before, but it's a good refresher. We had the reference to 3 or more counselors being able to call a special meeting. We had 2 issues there. Number 1 was that could have been a violation of the Open Meetings Act because 3 is a quorum and they would have had to meet to determine a special meeting. The second issue is if we go from 4 to 8, using a number is a problem. So what we came up with as a group was or of the number of counselors equal to one less than a quorum of the members of the governing body. And that way we didn't have Open Meetings Act violations. And, you know, I'm not taking credit for that. That was definitely a group thing coming up with that language. So that refresher. Then down to roll call votes. Again, best practices are through the Attorney General's office are that if a governing body member is attending remotely, all votes during such remote attendance shall be made by roll call, and the votes of each member shall be recorded in the minutes. That's guidance from the AG's office during the COVID time when we were all remote. So that's a refresher there. In voting, I do have some highlighted language because we came up, as we worked through the other articles, we came up with good language. It just didn't get applied back here when we were reviewing this one. So voting, all actions and decisions of the governing body shall be made by a simple majority of the members present. That's where it ended before, and we've received clarity from the governing body that the mayor votes only in instances of a tie. We don't even want that implied. We want it to be expressed. So we're expressing that, and then I bring that into the paragraphs below again for clarity. Ordinances and resolutions which shall be enacted by an affirmative vote of a majority of the members of the governing body, comma, with the mayor voting only in instances of a tie. So yeah, it's very repetitive, but we don't want anyone saying, you said it there, but you didn't say it here. Same with 2, any other matter required under this charter or the Constitution or laws of the state of New Mexico to be enacted by a vote other than a majority of the members present, with the mayor voting only in instances of a tie, unless otherwise specifically designated. So I don't know, but theoretically, state law could say everybody's got to vote.
The word instances, it's an IS.
Instances. Typo. Okay, thank you for catching that. Great.
Then quorum.
Quorum, again, it said 3 members. We get ourselves in trouble if that membership ever changes. So a majority of the total number of members of the governing body shall constitute a quorum. So that it's a refresher on a cleanup that we came up with. Great, that completes Article 2. That, with everyone's edits, the newest edits, from an administrative change perspective, is ready for approval when that time comes. That would take us to Article 3. Article 3 regarding the mayor. All I did was convert in all the work, but I found some minor tweaks and typos that I highlighted. So we've reviewed all of these changes. I can go through as a refresher. I might as well. Let's just do a refresher because that helped us in Article 2. So 3.01, mayor and mayoral candidates shall meet the qualifications required by Section 1, blah, blah, blah. Okay, as amended. So this is consistent language. Updating shall be elected at large within the city, shall serve a 4-year term. And I don't know. Looks like there's a typo there with an extra dash. So I'll get that out of there. Okay, 4-year term commencing with the regular local election of November 2025. And then the mayor, this is because we've informally adopted this election schedule of the November election. We just want to make it clear within the charter that we're following the Local Election Act as well as the schedule provided there.
So between the election day, November till December 31st, the old mayor stays on, or councillor, and then the new one moves on from January 1st on.
That's correct. Yes.
And you can't be hiring, extending contracts and all kinds of weird stuff either, right?
We don't have prohibitions on that, but.
But state law does, right?
Well, the state law just did that for,
School boards.
districts.
Yeah.
For school districts, because they put a blackout period on hiring or firing superintendents between election and it's not even the 1st of January now. I think it's the 3rd week of January, somewhere in there.
So is it safe for us to have a blackout?
Um,
That's more legal work down the road in case it does
yeah, I
happen,
think
right?
there's things I'm seeing that are probably, will be ready in the next round. The next time we convene.
You don't think state law will ever cover blackouts?
They might, yeah. I would put it up to the legislature to do blackouts through the municipal code.
So can we be safe and say if there's ever an election blackout, a law changing the municipal code that would include blackouts, we would automatically adopt it? Well, I guess we have no choice, right?
Yeah, we would likely have no choice,
Yeah.
unless they had some type of opt-out for the charters. But at the same time,
We're not gonna do that, no.
yeah, I'm not really big on putting
Extra stuff,
contingent
yeah.
language.
But I just don't like the blackout period. That's just a ridiculous thing.
And it's different here. It's different in this context, because you're just dealing with superintendents. I guess, they could try and give a city manager contract on December 31, but
Or even anytime in December, because they have a regular council meeting or two, they could do it there. I just knew that when I got in, we couldn't change anything during the blackout area, I guess, the blackout.
well, we have the removal anyway. We have the new removal
Okay.
section with the mayor being able to.
I hope I'm not making a lot of conversation for nothing, but that one just
Yeah.
stuck out.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of theoretic stuff in there, but I don't think we're ready for that
Okay,
yet. Okay, so, regular election, so this is language we've already approved, but that's the refresher there. 3.01, that takes us to 3.03. Again, everything here has been reviewed and approved in the past. However, there was a typo that I found. I think it said the instead of that when I made it, it's prior. So just to refresh our memory, council shall elect from its membership mayor pro tem to assume the role of mayor during the temporary absence, temporary medical disability of the mayor that renders the mayor unable to fulfill the duties of mayor, comma, or when there is a vacancy in the office of mayor, period. Mayor shall be authorized.
I just have one question. At one time, we used to elect the mayor pro tem at the organizational meeting, okay, which means that the 1 year would start. Well, back then, we didn't have a term at all. We had 2 years, the term of the mayor. I actually served mayor pro tem for 4 straight years
Oh,
with the first mayor and the second mayor.
Right.
So we didn't have but right now, the mayor pro tem gets elected like in February? Is that or March? When do they do it now?
There's no set date, it's just a year from the time that they do, so when mayor and the new administrator, or the new council decide to
Really?
put it on the agenda.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't
Which is
follow
shortly
anything?
after.
Oh, okay. Well, it was shortly after the March election, right? So it goes from, because I think my brother's mayor pro tem now. He just got in like a couple of months ago.
A year's time.
So, and then, okay. But now we're not in the March election, now we're in the November election. So I'm saying, well, how come that doesn't coincide with the elections?
It eventually will.
It will,
This is our, yeah.
because we'll need about another 15 more years.
so,
Because they forget to do it in one meeting, it goes to the next one, right?
at the very least, because of the organizational language that we just read.
Yeah,
At the very least, it's going to occur at the first regular meeting in January after an election. So that's your organizational meeting that selects, that that organizes the body.
So it says officers more than anything. Is there also a provision for Mayor Pro Tem?
There's nothing specific in either regarding Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm just asking. I guess we can leave it like that because it's going to catch up according to
We have a
Cassandra.
separate resolution for that.
Oh, it's an ordinance?
It's a resolution.
Oh, okay, all right.
There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
that answers my
You
question.
could put it in the charter if you wish, but
Yeah,
if it exists in.
somewhere else,
resolution.
yeah.
Okay, so there's that paragraph. Previous deletion, mayor shall be authorized to vote in the event of a tie. That was just redundant and out of place here. So, so we took that out. Then in B, Mayor Pro Tem shall retain, just a correction to go from his to the broader, to be non-gender specific. So there was that edit. Same with his that was deleted at the end of that sentence also. Then we added clarification because there was confusion about what does absence mean, especially in a modern technological world where the mayor's always reachable by phone, computer, and can attend by Zoom. So the previously approved language was a mayor shall be considered temporarily absent when the mayor is temporarily unreachable through technology or is otherwise unavailable for remote video or audio attendance of the governing body meetings. A mayor is considered present at a governing body meeting if the mayor is attending remotely by video or audio means. Great. That takes us down to vacancy. Again, just a refresher, of all that's in here, but there are only small edits, and those are the highlighted edits in B. So in A, we put the clarification that the then current mayor pro tem shall serve as mayor until such time as the vacancy is filled in accordance with this section. Then we did a lot of work in B, cleaning up the appointment process, making uniform the 45 days. So within 45 days of the vacancy, the council shall appoint from among its membership and/or from among other qualified electors who physically reside within the boundaries of the city. So it doesn't have to just be a council member, it can be a qualified elector from within the city. That was a later change in the process, but we made that change. You made that change as a commission. A person to serve as mayor until the next regular election. And if the appointed person is from among the council's membership, the council seat shall become vacant to be filled as provided in Article 2 herein. Any person appointed pursuant to this paragraph shall meet the qualifications as required under the Local Election Act. And so we brought that consistent reference and we deleted the special language reference at the end because that special election does not occur anymore for individuals. That takes us to C. Again, just a refresher, at the next regular local election following the vacancy, the office of mayor shall be placed on the ballot either to fill the remaining 2 years left in the regular mayoral term or for a 4-year term if the next regular local election coincides with the regular mayoral term. And that completes
Mayor.
Mayor in Article 3. The typo cleanup on page 1. Great. There, let's see, Article 2, Article 3. I'm gonna keep myself organized here. That'll take us to Article 4 with the municipal court. We last edited this, I think, in the February or March timeframe. Again, to bring it all consistent with the changes that we made otherwise. Refresher here, municipal judge in 4.02 qualifications. We made the change to the municipal judge and municipal judge candidates shall meet the qualifications required by the Local Election Act. B, we clarified, I don't know when, we just clarified that the judge position is elected at large within the city. And it's always been followed, but we want it clearly stated. And then we moved down B language to C, that the judge shall possess all of the aforementioned qualifications during the entire term of office. Great, that takes us to just 4.03, updating the language for 2027 now that we've adopted the new November election calendar. So we updated that for 2027, which is the next time that the judge is up for election. That then takes us to 4.05. And the previously reviewed and approved changes will refresh everyone's memory. If the judge recuses, then in that event, he or she shall notify the mayor, who shall appoint a qualified person to serve as alternate judge to preside over the case. So it still needs to meet all the qualifications that are stated here, just not any person. One, and then temporary absence, in the event of a temporary absence of the judge or vacancy in the office of municipal judge. Other than by recusal, mayor shall appoint a qualified person to act as temporary or alternate municipal judge, subject to confirmation by the governing body. Then we start getting into uniformity issues where previous language had an appointment having to occur within 30 days. We made that uniform to 45 days. The mayor shall appoint a qualified successor. I need to drag that one sentence up. I don't know how it got separated, so I'll clean that up. So shall appoint qualified successor to fill the vacancy subject to approval, so on and so forth in that paragraph. In C3, we made this uniform for the new election process and calendar. So at the next regular election following the vacancy, the office of the municipal judge shall be placed on the ballot either to fill the remaining 2 years left in the regular municipal judge term, or for a 4-year term if the next regular local election coincides with the regular municipal judge term. And then we deleted all the other language that was inconsistent with the new Local Election Act.
So I did visit just before I got here with the judge. There's nothing like a deadline, right? So I told him pretty much to just clean up, nothing changed the requirements or anything. It just coincided with the election, I think it's 2027, for the judge term. I think that's the date that I told him. And in regards to the appointment of a temporary judge, in talking to the mayor, he had to do it, the current mayor had to do it once. And I think they approached the probate judge, but I guess the probate judge couldn't do it for whatever reason. I guess they can only fill the office they have and they can't be a judge of something else, whether they're already a judge, but in a different, so that has probably something to do with state law or something.
Sure.
Or something from,
Conflicts of interest.
so ultimately when you appoint somebody and the thing never happens, people still have the opportunity to appeal it to municipal court, right? District court or magistrate.
It's gonna depend on the circumstances. It could be magistrate or district.
Okay, but there's an option.
There's an option. Yeah, there's if this court can't hear it, there's an option at another court.
It's funny, but I had to appoint somebody back in my day too, because the judge recused himself at that time. Okay. So,
So no changes then?
no changes, no substantial changes, other than cleanup for the state act. Okay,
Yeah, but the judge was fine with the language as
yes.
drafted. That's great. So that completes Article 4.
Yeah.
Now, Article 5, officers, directors, and employees. All I did was carry everything over, and I had no additional changes. All I did was carry over all the approved changes from our previous meetings. And it's a lot, so I may not read them word for word, but I'll summarize them. Over in 5.01, that's about the appointment of the city manager. And we made this language uniform throughout regarding mayor's appointment. And then down in E, how the mayor fills a vacancy with a temporary or acting city manager. And then, and so that process we did in E. 5.02, we made uniform all the removal throughout each of the positions.
Is that one right now, because of where we're at right now currently with our city manager, temporary city manager. The new wording doesn't have a time limit, right?
Does not have a time limit. Let's see. I'm looking at D, just to make sure that D doesn't designate. There is not a time limit on an acting.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in the current charter, there is. I thought.
Let's see it.
Is there something,
30, I believe it's 30 days.
30 days? So we're getting rid of the 30-day limit, right? So that'd be Article 5. I'm gonna look at the old one real quick.
I don't have any deletion of language. I think D
talking
has
about-
been read, might have been read for that, but it's saying shall designate other employees to perform. Oh, so
Yeah,
if they're
that's-
designating other employees, there is a limit.
Well, D
Right,
kind of,
but that's not a temporary, city manager, that's kind of a unique position, it's different than a temporary city.
Right, right. That's the city manager actually appointing someone
Yes.
to take his or her place for no more than 30 days. If the city manager is going to take a leave, let's say a leave of absence for 6 months, then the mayor has to go to council
Yes, the mayor.
to appoint an acting city manager in that circumstance. And then we added vacancy language. You could, that would be the paragraph, if you wanted a limitation, that would be the paragraph to do it.
I would say have no limitation.
I think it just remains silent as the way it is, because there is no limitation if it's.
It would help
It is,
now,
but it's
it
at
would
the-
help right now, right?
It-
Having a limitation.
It
If
wouldn't,
we didn't have one, it would help now, right?
Right, and think of a year like this year.
Yeah,
Where you've got a vacancy, if you had a 45-day, let's say a 45-day time limit, that mayor could only appoint an acting for no more than 45 days, you're in an election year where you may not get someone that's going to
wanted to do it.
want to do it.
Yeah.
Want to take it as a permanent position, because you could change 6 months from now.
So from my understanding, and correct me, Cassandra, because you're the expert on this. Currently, we have a 30-day limit. The new change would have no limit.
so we have also, in the personnel ordinance,
What does that one say?
it's only for interim. It doesn't have, acting
So isn't it the same word, acting interim?
for, not more than 6 months.
acting and interim are two different things.
I think they're the same.
So, well, believe it or not, they are different.
They're different.
So acting, oh shoot. The way I've used acting in the past, and so this is a good question because I may need some language cleanup. Interim is used between the time that your city manager term and, city manager leaves and the next one is hired. That's an interim. At least this is how we use it in school districts with superintendents
Okay.
or presidents at universities. So interim is between the last one leaving and the new one coming, starting, okay? Acting is when you have someone on contract, but you are acting as the position, acting as the city manager or the superintendent or the principal. So you have a permanent person in the position, but they might be on leave with pay to the end of a term or a contract. They might be taking a leave. They may have been placed on leave, all of these things, placed on leave pending investigation, all of that. When you have someone in the position, then someone else is acting in the position. But if you don't have someone in the position, then they're the interim between positions.
So I think, and I don't
keep that
know,
in
members of the commission, I think we need to add something there so that we have that clarified, because literally we're working through it right now. Because the way I look at it, let's just say that, we have an interim city manager or two interims right now, right? The chief and Lucas, right?
Correct.
So they'll stay there till someone's appointed by the mayor and council, okay, as acting, because, okay, so I'm looking at it, okay, so let's just say we're in May, so we'll get somebody June 1st. So it's June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So the acting could literally be up to 7 months. And I'll tell you what, there's not a whole bunch of takers on earth that want a 7-month job to take on, this type of a position. So would it be okay with the commission if we directed Gino to come up with some wording for what is it, interim, and state what that means,
I've already come
and
up.
acting?
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Well, what I'm doing is putting the language in the right places so that D would read as follows. And it would define it in and of itself. Okay, city manager shall designate I'm in D now, 5.01D. The city manager shall designate other employees of the city to perform the functions of the office as acting city manager, so insert that language, during any absence of 30 days or less. The mayor shall appoint, subject to council approval, an acting city manager, that's the appropriate word to use in this context, for any absence exceeding 30 days. So that would make that clear. It's the next paragraph where I confused us and I used the wrong word. So I would correct that word. If a vacancy occurs vacancy, we're talking about vacancy here. In the office of the city manager, the mayor may appoint a temporary or interim. I would actually delete the word temporary. I would say may appoint an interim.
Or acting.
No, because
At all.
if there's a vacancy, so there's no acting. So it would read, may appoint an interim city manager.
Which is what he has done, correct? And that's what we have now?
Subject to council approval to perform the duties of city manager until such time as the mayor identifies and submits a qualified candidate for a permanent appointment in accordance with this section. Now, that's how we've defined it. Acting is D, just filling in. Vacancy equals interim. And now it becomes clear.
So you switched the title then? Okay. He did a switcheroo on us, members of the commission, but he had to.
I will say this openly, on the record. I made a drafting error in E by using the word acting. I should have used interim, and that would have avoided the confusion.
So what just happened now, Sandra, the manager didn't appoint nobody, the mayor did, because he resigned. Yeah, Okay,
And they did it as.
And that's a vacancy.
and that's a vacancy. That's a vacancy, right?
Yeah, they can just,
I think he took the language that was current.
yeah, yeah. And folks get confused. I have this confusion all the time on acting versus interim. And I've even had some lawyers call interims actings. But that said, that's how I make it clear. Acting is when someone else is in the position, but I'm acting for them. And interim means nobody's there. And these edits will make that absolutely clear.
So to go back to Commissioner Pacheco, he just said there's a vacancy. That's why the mayor appointed.
Yes. That's exactly it. That's the instance we're facing right now. Mr. Montgomery's term as city, his resignation, which is a public record.
That's right.
His status is a public record, was last Friday. He's no longer in the position. There is a vacancy. And therefore, any manager brought forth by the mayor is an interim until they find someone.
Okay. Well, we caught up. See, if we hadn't had it already changed, we waited till it actually happened, right?
There you go. So I've got those edits.
Yeah.
I've got the edits I just read to you.
Okay.
Okay. Again, just refreshers, but look, these refreshers are helping us. They're getting us some clarity. Page 2 of 5. Oh, look, I did put page numbers on some of them.
I think we should define those two terms, because in the real world, they're synonymous. I don't mean the real world, but out in the world.
I think we just did define them when we say in D. We could if you want, but we did define them in D where the city manager is staying in place and there's a short-term absence and we're using the word acting. And then in the instance of a vacancy, we're using the word interim.
Okay.
That's sort of self-defining now. Okay, thank you though for the question.
Thank you.
That takes us to the top of page 2 of 5. This is where we start the uniform language and the cleanup language of removal or suspension of a city manager in this instance, but this language is the same across all the appointed positions. City manager, attorney, clerk, and police chief. Okay, that takes us to city attorney. We just reviewed this at our last meeting. Mayor may appoint, subject to review and approval of council, who shall be employed by the city and serve as. We then have the language at the bottom. In addition, the governing body may contract for such legal and specialized services from outside counsel as it deems appropriate. Now, let me just go to the front so I don't create confusion. The mayor may appoint, so not required to appoint, but may appoint. And then if the mayor does appoint, then that person shall be employed by the city. So you have the option for employed city attorney and contract city attorney. And I and a couple of other law firms are contracted city attorneys. Okay, we deleted out, again, this is common across the board, we deleted out the 2 qualified candidates, requirements for that, and the requirement to enter into contracts. They still have the ability to, but it's not required. And then finally, this was an edit from the last one. It's subtle, but the letter C is highlighted because, as Commissioner Britt pointed out last time, we did not have that paragraph appropriately lettered. And so I corrected that. Okay, and then that takes us to city clerk. Again, these are the edits that were approved at the last meeting. Again, 1 qualified candidate, not 2. And the uniform language on establishing compensation, benefits, et cetera. The removal is D, so that's the uniform language for removal, and deleting out the inconsistent language. That takes us to police chief. If you remember, we added
Certified.
certified law enforcement officer. Implied, but we don't need to fight over that. So it states it explicitly. And then back to a qualified candidate and the uniformity of establishing compensation, et cetera. And then the uniform removal process was placed in there also. We've got over in departments at 5.07. Again, this inconsistency, it was, you've got a city manager who employs everyone, but there was this inconsistency of the governing body having to approve hires and removals. City manager is responsible for all of that. That's the person whose head is on the plate for hires and terminations. But all appointments shall be reported at the next regular governing body. And then department directors are at-will employees who may be placed on admin leave or removed by the city manager. And the city manager shall report in such leave or removal at the next governing body meeting. So, that the basic theory of governance, city council has the appointed employees, and then then everyone else reports to them. The governing body should not be involved in the hiring and firing of any employees below the appointed level. Yes.
Yes, I just had a question, Gino.
Yes, sir.
So on D, report such leave or removal at the next regular governing body meeting.
Yes.
Can that be done? Because it's a personnel matter. So if I put someone on leave, I guess you could say they're on leave, but not why, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so I kind of answered my own question.
Okay, thank you. Yes, employment status is both a fact and a public record, but the reasons therefore are the things that you should not be disclosed publicly.
Okay.
So in short, the officers go through the system, get approved by mayor and council, and they can also be terminated by mayor and council. The manager cannot do anything with those officers.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
So then,
And this is department directors.
okay, so then when we get, so these are department directors that are not officers, right? Okay.
They're not appointees.
Okay, so then, withstanding that and considering just regular employees, okay? So if someone's terminated for whatever reason by a director or possibly by a city manager, that falls under the Personnel Act, right?
Code, yeah.
Yeah. So is that a very comprehensive code when it comes to separation like that?
Yes, and it's online if you want to take a look at it.
Okay, but we're not doing nothing with that, but there's already, okay.
Right.
So do some of those ordinances have to be reviewed too,
They need to be
The
updated.
updated?
That whole personnel ordinance needs to be.
I think that's a good recommendation we ought to give mayor and council when we present this, because you know what,
Stop trying to keep me busy.
well, I don't know, I know you like Las Vegas because it's, part of the family and that kind of stuff in your life.
And the food.
Yeah, well, but the thing is that, and I think I've told this commission before, I remember a time when we were updating ordinances all the time. It was not just a one-time thing. They'd bring a couple this meeting, a couple the next meeting. It was a perpetual thing. But I think what's happened is they haven't for a long time. Am I right, Cassandra?
That's correct. The personnel ordinance hasn't been updated in a while.
Oh, yeah, or not just that, any ordinances that affect the
There's
city,
been a few that have been over the years,
but
but
not as many as there used to be. I remember them every meeting.
So ordinances go back to the beginning of the city,
The first laws.
Yes.
And they all need to be reviewed.
Well, some have already been, but it's been a while.
Well, they might need it again, like
Yeah,
a couple
that's right.
100 years of ordinances? How old is this city?
From
Full
1970.
time just to do that.
Yeah, just to do
Well,
that.
they're super outdated though. We worked on, our group worked with the mayor and the animal shelter on like the animal ordinances and those were like archaic. I mean, they still are.
The
I mean, we
19
tried-
something, right?
We tried to get a couple of them like a little bit more up to speed, but yeah, they're pretty bad.
Okay. I'm just talking outside the box here. I'm just trying to keep, how do people leave here if they're exempt? Yeah. Yeah, then they have a whole personnel system. If they're at will, they come out of here, right?
It would be non-exempt.
I mean, non-exempt, yeah.
Classified,
Yeah.
yeah, non-exempt or classified, correct. And so some of the difficulty has been for the manager to actually be the manager and make decisions as to department directors, number one. But number two, on the removal of department directors, when you've got to go through council, it was the same thing we were talking about before with the mayor. If the mayor calls for a city manager to be removed and the council says no, then the mayor's stuck with them, that's a real problem.
Yeah,
The same was happening at the director level.
yeah.
So
This
it's
clarifies that once and for all.
Same risk.
Yeah.
Exists.
That's a big change, in fact. I think didn't he suggest that too?
He may have, I think it came up even prior to that. I think we had these edits prior to the city manager.
Yes, we had already discussed and made the changes and it was then recommended at a later date by the city manager, so.
Okay, we'll keep going. I'm sorry. I just want to
No, that's,
clarify some stuff there in my mind.
never gone through that. So yes, that is a big change. City manager should be in charge of all other employees, and when you start having the governing body involved in hiring and firing of employees below the city, the level of the appointees, then it starts creating issues. Okay, and then the next then is E, and that's adding that the city manager should not serve in the following roles: city clerk, city attorney, or police chief, or finance director. City manager. And there are certain roles that they shouldn't be running both of them.
That takes care of 5.
We should say municipal judge there, or is that too obvious?
The municipal judge has a process for filling that role.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that finishes Article 5. Article 6, boards and commissions. I believe all I did was carry over all the previously approved changes in. I had no new edits, carrying over the previously approved stuff.
We talk about members of the committees that are from outside the city limits. I can't remember.
The language exists. I had it highlighted in a previous version. I think it's in C, 601C, so let me look here.
Oh, maybe considered.
Yeah,
Or
non-residents, non-residents may be considered for the at-large positions if so provided by ordinance. So when we heard some testimony saying we want to be able to appoint people that are out in the county, you already have the authority to do so, you just need to put that in the ordinance regarding that board or commission. So just reviewing the edits, this is from our last meeting also, the governing body may also by ordinance establish committees composed solely of members of the governing body. And they didn't have that option before, and I think from a lot of the discussion and testimony, I think the commission and others are strongly encouraging them to start having some council member only committees like finance, et cetera. Okay, that takes us to the second page. Ex officio members, governing body may, again, refresher, may only provide for such ex officio members by ordinance. and take out the as it deems appropriate. We did get testimony of the difficulty of having council members on some of these boards. And this this just reminds and clarifies that they can only do it by ordinance. The as it deems appropriate, I think gave some people the feeling that, oh, we'll just do it by motion or we'll do it by resolution, but no, it should be at that highest standard of ordinance and should be scrutinized as to whether someone should be on that board. Not someone, but whether a council member or governing body member should be on there. So it's got to be very clear. Removal, we brought in the uniform removal language that we had produced previously, had developed previously. And that
There's one more.
takes us to the last page. I don't remember we've been working 6 months now.
Yeah,
I don't remember why or where this came in about shall establish by ordinance any additional powers and duties of the Lodgers Tax Board. I actually think that came from me and previous work I had done on regarding the authority of the Lodgers Tax Board. So we just needed to add that language.
I don't think we brought it up.
It says ethics.
That's ethics, so why is that there? It must go under 6.06. Oh, weird. It's already there.
It was just extra.
it's just
Okay.
misplaced.
So that one doesn't, that's not there, right?
I'm firing my editor.
So 3 is not there.
3 comes out on that last
Oh,
page.
that section.
Yeah. It may have just been when I was cutting and pasting. Okay, and then advisory committees. Again, best practices implementation here. If you're creating a committee, then put the creation in writing, because you can't track motions as easily as you can track ordinances and resolutions. So again, this is a refresher on previously approved language, but governing body may establish advisory committees as it deems appropriate. They still have the authority, not removing it, but only by ordinance or resolution. We want trackable documents that say, here's how it was created, here's how the authority was. The ordinance or resolution establishing, and it used to say or motion, but those get lost and they don't put duties, they don't put membership, they don't put any limitations, so that's problematic. So the ordinance or resolution establishing any such committee shall provide for the following, blah, 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 blah. And compliance with the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. So making sure that their meetings, if they're official committees, then they're complying with the Open Meetings Act, publishing agendas, meeting in public, not meeting behind the scenes, etc.
That does it for 6.
That completes 6. 7, financial procedures. We've only had one edit to this, and that is insertion of the word of in paragraph 7.03A. It was missing the word of 3 lines from the bottom. City clerk office shall be certified by the city clerk. Sufficient copies, finance office and city clerk office for use of all city offices, departments, agencies, and for use of interested persons and civic organizations.
So that's it with 7.
That's it with 7. Takes us to 8. Rather than highlighting and making difficult to read everything in here, I just highlighted the top to show you it's all new. All of these edits are all new. This is the first time I had the opportunity to go through it. In previous meetings, I had said, I'm just going to go in and say, we're following the Local Elections Act, and boom, 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 in each of the 4 sections. When I went in to read all of the portions. There were some discretionary items that the city needed to provide procedures for, and structures for. So what I did was I inserted all the legal references and then kept the procedures as they related, not necessarily to city elections, but over when we get into initiatives. City elections, there's not a lot of discretion, so I pulled a lot of language out. But when it comes to initiatives, referendum, recall, I put in all the legal references, but then the process, I left in. Okay? And so, I'll jump in and out of summary and actual reading, but you'll see in city elections, we're following the Local Election Act, which is what we're mandated to do once we've opted into the November elections. So, and it shall apply in governed elections of the city of Las Vegas, period. The regular municipal election shall be held on, so I provided clarification. Rather than it just saying provided by applicable law, I got very specific. Shall be held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November of each odd-numbered year. That's cut and pasted out of the Local Election Act, as provided by the New Mexico Local Election Act. Special municipal elections shall be held in accordance with the New Mexico Local Election Act. And then when I got into the section on special elections, it referred over to the New Mexico Special Election Act, which is still active. So I inserted the reference to both statutes there. Okay. Now, that then took me down to, so deleting out qualified voters because that's already defined in the act. I repeated, probably didn't need to keep C in, but I thought it was an important concept to keep in there. Invisible. Candidates for all municipal elective offices shall run for office without any political party designation, and no reference to any slate of candidates shall be made on any ballots.
So there could be slates, but they won't appear on the ballot.
Right. You can't structure a ballot to say vote for slate 1 or vote for slate 2, right? But people could send out materials, hey, the 4 of us are running.
Yeah.
Together. Yes.
The slates ended in 86.
Today.
Yeah. I was 86, there's no more slates. We were districted counselors. In the district, we resided in 86.
And I believe, and the clerk may help me, but I do believe they also removed the party vote, right? Is that still off? You used to be able to just say, vote all Democrat, all Republican.
I don't remember that in the city,
Yeah, you never had it in the city level.
but the primary in general you did.
Yeah,
General
primaries in general used to.
election, you used to be
general.
able
And
to.
I think that got removed about 3 or 4 years ago. It got challenged.
City you cannot.
Yeah, but cities, we can't do that. So voting systems shall use paper ballot. Again, deleted that because Local Election Act governs all of that. F, I deleted that, again, covered in the Local Election Act. Correctly numbered D, or letter D, for the remaining language, which is really just a policy statement. And and the city does reserve the right to adopt any election ethics type of ordinances. Needs a space on the second line between may and determine, so I did that.
So let me ask you a question, Gino, about initiative referendum. Unless you voted to become a city that allows that, are there cities that don't have it?
So from my research, there are state laws that allow for it and then say the cities have to show the process. So initiative was in state law in the reference sections. Referendum was there.
And recall?
And recall.
Okay.
And so, but you've got to do two things. You reference the laws that apply so that people see them, and then you provide for the process. So generally speaking, in each of those categories, it said, you shall go to the county clerk or the city clerk. Because they applied to counties and cities. And so they left both that language in there. And so I didn't want if I just referenced the statutes, I didn't want someone saying, oh, I went to the county clerk for a referendum that related to the city. Ultimately, the county clerk runs the election, but the one to manage the process when it's these categories is the city clerk. And then after everything's perfected, then the city clerk goes to the county clerk and says, yes, this is legitimate for being placed on the ballot,
Okay.
okay? And that's why the changes weren't as condensed as I thought they would be. So that's the backdrop that goes across all of these sections.
So you left language that would help.
Yes, provide that clarity.
Okay.
Okay, so when we get into 8.02 initiatives, power of initiatives reserved by the voters of the city except as otherwise provided herein, provisions of the New Mexico Local Election Act, the New Mexico Special Election Act, and Section 3.1-5 of the New Mexico Municipal Code. So I just shifted some references here. Then all the rest of this stays in. Okay?
So the rest of it's just helpful.
Yeah, it's just process.
Okay.
It's how you accomplish it. And then you'll see down in 8.027, they were referencing the New Mexico Municipal Election Code, which has since been replaced with the Local Election Act and the Special Election Act.
Okay.
And those types of edits are what you're going to commonly see throughout each of these sections.
Referendum looks the same.
Referendum, we reserve the ability to have a referendum, which means this: if you won't pass the ordinance, then we're gonna pass the ordinance by vote. Okay, and so here, again, references to the Local Election Act, the Special Election Act, and New Mexico, so I've got a typo there. And New Mexico, delete the comma and the underlined and. Municipal Election Code at section 3-1-5. Some of that stuff does still exist over in 3-1. So I left that reference to the Municipal Election Code. Let me say it more clearly. The Municipal Election Code exists, but much of the contents have been removed and placed into the Local Election Act, but referendum still resided in Municipal Election Code. Okay. So that's the edit there till I get to the next page at the bottom.
Number 4.
Under 4. And again, it's a lot of references throwing statute in. They reference 3-1-5 again, but I also remind everyone that it's got to conform with the election calendar, et cetera, and duties otherwise required in the New Mexico Local Election Act, the New Mexico Special Election Act, and the New Mexico Recall Act, because there is a recall act, particularly section 3-1-5. Okay. Yeah, let me just circle my last reference. to municipal code to verify something. I'm putting a note here. Because I'm calling it municipal election code and I'm also calling the same section the Recall Act. So I may have to change that reference in 8.03B.
That's just to line it up, right?
Okay, so that takes us to the next page. Down in 5, they reference municipal election code. I reference local election act in this instance because these duties are over in the local election act and the New Mexico Special Election Act as to how to structure the ballot. Okay. And that takes us to recall. Again, you're going to see similar things. Just bringing in everything that applies, local election act, special election act, and the New Mexico Recall Act here. That's, okay. I was in referendum before, so that's where my bad reference might be. If you go back into 8.03, I reference the Recall Act in the referendum, so I may have to do a technical cleanup there for consistency.
You're just gonna check for consistency, right?
Exactly, clean up for consistency. So I would say when we get to this, if you move to approve this, it would be with any edits and the cleanup for consistency.
Okay.
Recall, we finished that on that page. That takes us to the final page. Again, inserting references. And we remain in recall here. So I'm referencing the Special Election Act and the New Mexico Recall Act, particularly that section. So check for consistency.
So the best of your review, the wording that you're leaving here, Gino, is just to support it.
Correct. Correct.
And if there's a conflict, the act takes it over.
Yes.
Okay. Because there's a lot of wording that's still here.
There's a lot that's still there.
That takes care of 8.
So the B of each of those sections is the one that says, we will follow the law.
Yeah.
Great.
Good idea.
That's good.
Okay. That one was a hard one for me.
And you probably want to review it all again, right? To just make sure that it lines up.
Yeah, I'll do that review when I create the final document, based on what you approved today. Yeah, when you move and approve, all of the edits I've noted throughout will be the final documents.
Okay. All right, move on to number 9.
9, conflict of interest and ethics. Okay, as we discussed last time, this is the first time you're seeing these edits, but as we discussed last time, when it comes to ethics codes, they can coexist. You've got the New Mexico Governmental Conduct Act, which every municipal officer, employee, agent, representative, so it applies to everyone. It applies to this commission. And so that is the statewide ethics code. The municipalities have the ability to customize and or adopt their own ethics code that is separate from the Governmental Conduct Act. You can't change the Governmental Conduct Act. You've always got to abide by it, but you can also have your own ethics code.
So that whole section that's highlighted in yellow is brand new.
Brand new.
Yeah.
Brand new.
Okay.
Starting with the numbering, because there was no, this section is new. So,
Okay.
and I felt it was important to place it as the first thing you see in the charter.
Because I'm looking at the old charter, and it's not there at all.
Not there at all. Just to start with conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
So there's no reference to there's no reference to Governmental Conduct Act, and there really should be, because as of, and this is relatively new, somewhere around 2017, 2018, is when the legislature made the Governmental Conduct Act apply to local governmental entities. It only applied to the state prior to that time. So we're putting that as number one. This is our ethics code from a state mandate, and then here's our local code. And so insert a new section 9.01, a New Mexico Governmental Conduct Act, the New Mexico Governmental Conduct Act, section 10-16-1 NMSA 1978 et sec, shall apply to, at SEEK, shall apply to and govern the ethical principles of public service for the city's elected officials, appointees, board, commission, and committee members, employees, and all other representatives of the city covered by the act. So throw all of that in. I use language out of the Governmental Conduct Act when I talk about the governing the ethical principles of public service. That's lifted straight out of the act. Now, what I do also say is recognize what I talked to you about earlier, independent from and in addition to the Governmental Conduct Act, the ethical principles of this article shall also apply as stated herein. So what's independent from and in addition to, it says just because we have our own ethics code doesn't mean you can't, you're not subject over there. So that's independent from and in addition to. So that applies, plus this applies. And you can't say, hey, I complied with our local one, therefore I'm exempt from the other one, or vice versa. Okay, so they coexist. And then the only other edits I made was renumbering the individual sections. Okay.
Just a typo. In the new 902 B, no elected officer of the city shall hold any other city office.
B,
902 B,
E,
no elected officer of the city shall hold any other city office. It says officer.
okay. I'm sorry I'm not finding you, but I'll get there. New 902?
The new 902. No, you're right, the new 903.
Okay,
Sorry,
all right,
B. It's just a typo.
okay.
Any other city office. Hold office.
So in my copy, shall hold any other elected public office? Oh, B, I'm sorry. That's where I'm at. Elected
It's just a typo.
office of the, okay. Got it.
You find it?
I found it.
Oh, office.
Oh, no, I took out the wrong R. So no elected officer of the city shall hold any other city office.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
That takes care of 9?
That takes care of 9.
Moving right along.
Now we're on X.
We're on X, Article X, 10. Required minimal changes. There's a lot of history in there that's pulled in from the original charter. Just make sure it states the history and recognizes the existence of the charter. And so the only real edits besides the typographical edit is in section 10.01. This charter, as amended, because it's been amended throughout the years. We don't want to imply that this is the first time it's been approved. Shall take effect for all purposes on January 1, 2026, following the regular municipal election in November 2025.
No, shouldn't that say local regular election?
Sure. It could, yeah. Local election, now that it's an expanded election, okay.
You're just gonna have the wording, right?
Regular election.
Yeah, so, good catch by Cassandra, that following the regular local election in November 2025. It's now under the Local Election Act.
Instead of municipal?
The November election holds all kinds of local elections all in the same, at the same time. So it's not simply municipal anymore. So that's a good catch. School districts, water districts, municipalities, and a couple others that I can't think of.
And then the bottom's just as amended, right?
Yes, well, there's one in between, section.
Oh, where it says time.
Commissioner Britt might be proud of me for finding this myself. 10.02B, instead of tome, it's time.
I am proud of you.
She's the spell check.
She is, she's better than Microsoft Word. And then the only other change after that is section 10.03, adding the word as amended, which it just shows that this gets continually amended.
So that takes care of 10.
That takes care of,
So that leaves us very little.
it finishes the category under new business of administrative language and law changes in municipal charter. So it's the administrative stuff, the procedural stuff. And that, what you've just finished reviewing, would be question number 1.
Okay.
That takes us to question number 2, approval to go from 4 council members to 8 council members. You're gonna see, let's see. At the top, the header says proposed changes to charter increase councilors from 4 to 8 members.
I guess mine are out of sequence. Let's see if I messed them up.
Two.
Yeah,
The governing body?
0.01 and
yeah, so the 2 one-pagers that both say Article
They're
2,
both Article 2.
in the header, one of them says increase councilors from 4 to 8 members, the other says governing body compensation.
Okay, so 4 to 8 on the top.
4 to 8 on the top.
Article 2, governing body.
Yes. So these would be the changes, these would be question 2
Yeah.
for 4 to 8. And so you'll see, for the most part, all I did was carry in the previously approved language. I should have highlighted the language at the top. Amend section 2.01B and 2.03B and C only as follows, and if passed, to be applied after the results of question 1. Okay, and the reason for that is, I don't remember why.
No, this thing changes everything in the original,
Is it
question
cha-
1,
It's gonna change.
from the 4 reference to the 8 reference.
Yes.
And the majority is not gonna be 3 anymore, it's gonna be 5. And that, and you can't put a item, you can't have a special meeting unless you have one less than half.
Exactly.
All those things get
All the-
modified.
Yes, all those get modified,
Yeah.
and then this gets layered on top of it.
Okay, so this is question 2.
Yes.
This looks pretty straightforward,
Yeah,
and you have all the, the ward positions and where they all land.
and then
So-
this is language reviewed and approved in a
Yeah.
previous meeting. Didn't change any of it, just carried it all in.
So this is Article 2, governing body. That's
Yes.
it, right?
That's it.
Anybody have
And
any?
it's only sections 2.01 and 2.03.
Okay. All right, so this question 2, Article 2, right?
Yes.
So then we jump to Article, let's see, where's the other one?
So Article
It's
2,
Article 2.
Article 2,
Governing body?
invitation.
Yeah,
sections.
but it's only section 2.06 compensation. Okay, now what I did, because I didn't have guidance here, my notes didn't have a lot of feedback from the governing body.
We left it pretty vague intentionally to bring it to this.
Yes, and so now you have the option to, because you're only making recommendations here in all of these. In the other two questions, we're making strong recommendations, we're not giving options, we're just saying, here, this needs to get updated, here are the changes. For compensation, you could choose to make a recommendation to the governing body that contains several options for them to choose from. They cannot put 4 options on the ballot.
Yeah.
It's gotta
Right.
be either yes or no. So ultimately, it'll only have to be one option. You can narrow it today to one option, or you can leave multiple options. But I laid them all out here. So the original language is the first one. Section 2.06, compensation, annual compensation for the mayor shall be $10,000, and for each counselor, $10,000, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then option 1 that we've discussed, take everybody up to 15. Option 2, take the mayor to 25, leave the counselors at 15. You also have the ability to change those numbers, but really that option is mayor gets more than counselors.
Right.
Okay. Option 3 is to peg it to the, is where we start pegging it to the county commission. So option 3 is the equivalent,
2, County Commission.
equal to. They've got just as much value as the county commission. Now, that doesn't disclose a number because that number changes in state statute all the time. But for everyone's reference, under option 4, I show you what all the numbers look like. So option 4 pegs it to the county commissioners, but reduces it to a certain percentage of what the county commissioners make. And then I put those, what the equivalent of what those percentages are, all the way down. And so 30,196 is what the county commission makes. So that means option 3 would be that number. And then under option 4, if you go to 90, 80, 70, 60, you probably should have done 50
And
also.
50 is about 50,000, right? 50,000, half of 196.
About 15,000.
Yeah. 50,000. Well, I think, and this is just coming from me, if I was in an elected position and I have a commission working on this, we didn't pick it, we city councilors and mayor, I would like a recommendation from the commission. If I were an elected person in this current city council or mayor. So I think it would save a lot of, in other words, they could say, this is what the commission came up with, this is not a number that we came up with. So this is just for discussion for all of us, but
In addition to that, I
yeah,
think
but I think it helps.
out of the 4 options, right? For the sake of not having to go back every time and update, I'm leaning towards 3 or 4. You peg it to you peg it. Gotcha.
So you could have the option of saying, this is what we choose. Here are the other things we considered, just so they have them for reference and don't have to reinvent the wheel. But this is the one we recommend. These are the 3 we considered but did not recommend.
So let me be a devil's advocate, okay, for a second. I like where Joseph's going. On option 4, if we were to come up with a 50%, okay, it's equivalent to,
What it is,
what is it, 2? Yeah,
yeah.
2 and 4. 2 and 1, okay? So we peg it to that. But could we have a provision where the mayor gets a higher percentage, say 80%?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Can you if it's tied to the statute?
Because we want to separate them because of the amount of work that the mayor does.
Yeah, I thought I drafted that, but I'm not seeing it here.
But you know what I'm talking about? We'd be 50% of option 4. And then the mayor could be like 80% of the county commission pay, which would be, today's numbers would be an equivalent of 24,156. Don't forget that the county commission meets once a month. The city council meets twice for sure, plus who knows how many other committee meetings, and you know, it even counts when you go to Walmart. You know what I mean? You go there to buy something and they're asking you questions, who do I talk to about putting a shed, or putting this, taking care of my dog, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't end.
I just have one thought, and that
ahead.
is, which of these is most likely to be voted on by the people?
All of them. They have to pick, after they put it on the ballot, they've got to pick one.
Well, we're gonna put one on, we're not
yeah.
gonna put them all on.
But we're trying to come up with a hybrid, but go ahead, Benito, you also
Right, but
have.
what I'm saying is, which one is the most likely to be voted on by the people? I think
By the people.
pass rather than be rejected and we're where we were.
Because we can only pick one, right? Correct?
Right.
One of those options,
Or
yeah.
make one.
So, I'm in agreement with Matt and Joseph in terms of, I believe we should select one to submit for approval with the options that we've considered for city council reference. But I believe we should go with one. I am also of the opinion that there should be a differential between the councilors and the mayor, because there is a different level of responsibility. Your county commission is all commissioners, so they're all equal, so to say.
And they elect the chair.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas with the mayor is serving in a different capacity, and I do believe there should be a differential for the mayor. Me personally, I like option 4 with the specification of percentage for the mayor and a specification of percentage for councilor.
I agree with that, but do you understand what I'm saying? That it's also, what are the people going to either accept or reject?
Well, and I hear your concern, and I agree with that. And from my perspective, option 4, or even option 3, is probably the most likely for a voter to consider based on the fact that we're
Tying it to a statute.
tying it to other elected members of the community and to a statute. So there's some logic behind the change.
I have a question. So if they in fact don't vote to do this, then the commission stays, the city councilors stay at 10,000, correct?
And so does the mayor.
Correct.
I'm like,
Well, you know, and I'm gonna be another devil's advocate again, because I sort of created a hybrid one here, whatever you wanna call it, option format, okay? But at the end of the day, the good thing about this is if we approve, let's say that they do approve it, let's say we come up with whatever we land up doing, they won't have to do this again.
Ever again,
It's over.
indefinitely.
That's the neat part about this, right? It's over.
Unless they choose to change the percentage.
Yeah.
They could.
But no, I think this is the way to go. You never have to deal with it again. It doesn't have to become a big old issue. The only thing I would do, and on the ballot, okay, I'm thinking, okay, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, what's gonna land up on the ballot, okay? I would really like to see something referenced, like, even if it was the 10,000 or the 15 and the 25 for mayor, something that would say something like this. If we go to 15,000, that's an equivalent to 15,000 divided by 2080, $7 and something cents an hour.
You can do that in the
Ballot.
explanation materials,
Yeah.
you can't do it on the ballot.
Okay, but you can make that kind of you can put
You
it
can make
somewhere.
those statements, it
Yeah.
can be in the letters to the editor, in the mail pieces.
Yeah,
and
so
all
that's the
those.
part that I think would be helpful.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, but look at it that, we're going back to the original comment that Ashley made back when she started.
Trying to sell it.
If we keep it low, we're pretty much just saying anybody's elected has to be retired and already have to be financially sound to be considered. How about a parent or a single mother or a single father, whatever the case is? You need a little bit of a break. So that kind of compensation doesn't even buy you lunch one time every week. You know what I mean?
And we do need more people to run.
Yeah,
I think it's a good, I mean, I'm gonna go back and be devil's advocate as well. Like, I think it's a good incentive to get people running and to get people more interested in the positions, but I also think that, at least from opinion that I hear, I don't know that a lot of people in the community would be in favor of the city getting an increase like that. Like, the distrust in the community is something that's been a huge conversation starter, but then there's a lot of people that talk badly about the county commission raising their salary that high. So I guess I'm more like interested in what would like, I see the perks and the incentives of it and I see how great it could be, but it's also like, how do we sell that to the people? And I remember Councilor Montoya kind of mentioned that, like, how do you sell that to people? And especially like moving it to 8 members and then all of them getting that kind of compensation. I mean, we're doing a pretty big change, and I'm a little bit curious how the rest of our community is going to take it.
Well, one more point. If we pick one today, we're still going to show the city council all of these?
Yes.
So,
Hello, get back.
not entirely up to us.
but I think it comes with a little more strength if it comes from us.
Sure.
I think it does.
I kind
Because
of,
they don't have to take blame one way or the other,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if they went ahead and picked something totally different, well, that's on them.
that's different, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's where I think it becomes more of a challenge, but I do like the fact, the neat thing about both 4 and 5, or what is it, 3? Let me check.
Foreign format.
Yeah, 3 and 4, is that once this happens once, we won't deal with it again. Do you wanna keep playing, and we're only going up a little bit, you know what I mean? I think we make a hybrid of 4, and we make, the city councilors 50% of the county, and we do the mayor 80 or 85% of the county. Whatever comes up to about 25,000, and we're pretty close at 80. So
I'm good
it's
with
gonna
that.
be 82.3 or whatever to make it.
So just for your notes, 50% is 15,098.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna throw one other number out at you,
Okay.
because I go in tens. I'm gonna do 75% to see what that looks like. So let's do
75% for mayor or council?
just to have a number.
Okay,
30196 times 0.75 is 22,647. So 75% is 22,647. And so, thinking with a marketing hat on, but this is not my decision, it's your decision, just adding to the discussion. Thinking 50% for counselors and 75% for a mayor just seems a little bit more like understandable chunks for electorate versus 80%.
or it's gonna be more than 80, could be 82 or 83% to make it 25.
Right.
I think that's reasonable from a marketing perspective, 25% more than counselors. That's what it ends up being, right?
Kind of off the subject, do counselors have kind of, not a scope of work, but do they have kind of like I know they have duties and responsibilities, but do they have like stuff that they have to abide by, or else?
They gotta show up to meetings.
Yeah, like, do they have, like, can they just become a
Job
counselor and then decide not to show up to half the meetings and?
Sure.
know.
They can miss up to 3.
Is that?
Yeah,
Okay,
but they can miss if they're excused by
right,
the governing body.
endlessly.
But they wouldn't have to necessarily read the materials that they're given before the meeting, even though they really should.
The accountability starts with the election itself and not getting reelected, but then you get into recall and all of those things, which happens. I've seen it happen in communities. So either a counselor's way out of bounds and gets recalled, or not attending, and people are upset that they're getting a paycheck for doing nothing, type of stuff. So those tend to be the checks. It's gonna be a higher standard for elected officials than an employee because the people have cast a vote. You don't want to just take their vote away. But those tend to be the ways. Recall, some of these automatic resignations for unexcused absences, all of those things.
You know, having the opportunity to serve both as a counselor and mayor. And just look at what's happened to us in the last couple of years. How many meetings did these guys have because of emergencies? How many meetings did they have just to get things up and running? You know, my gosh. I think this group, mayor and council, current mayor and council, who's suffered through all these things since the fire, and before that, COVID, look at the number of meetings that they've had. And then they're not lasting an hour. You know, they're going into the wee hours sometimes of the morning, you know what I mean? And I just think it's admirable. You know, I know them, I've been there, I understand, we used to have meetings till 1 a.m. as well. But look at what these emergencies have created. You know what I mean? And it's not been easy. The fact that we had, you know, no water, you know, we had to boil water for almost a month. All of these things add to the stuff. And it's not just, they're just pulling out an idea to get done. They're going back and saying, we just can't use that water. It's not safe. You've got to, you know, use bottled water, use the carton water. All these things. We are really in extraordinary times. And I think they would like a recommendation from us personally. And I will leave it up to the commission to decide, but at the end of the day, I really think we need to recommend one of these, whatever we do, and then show them the rest,
Let's do the 50-75.
the 50 and 75.
I second that.
It's digestible.
Let's just get Benito and let him know what we did. Why don't we do this while we wait for him? Oh, there he goes, there he comes. So Benito, while you've been gone, we modified it even more.
Oh, you did, sorry, I slipped on me, call real quick.
We got into hypothetical decimals.
Okay.
So, at the request of a mathematician that, what do you call it? He's not even an acting attorney, but he knows something about numbers.
Not even interim.
He figured that maybe 75% for the mayor and 50% increase for the council.
Option 4.
Just
As
suggest
option 4, modified, as a marketing piece, 25% more.
digestible numbers for an electorate.
Which is roughly 15,098 for
Yeah.
council
Yeah.
and 22 and some odd change for mayor.
Yeah.
22,647.
15,098 for council and 22,647 for mayor.
But looking at it on a ballot, it's easier to interpret, I think.
75% for
50,
mayor,
75.
50% for council.
Because if you wanted to get close to,
Chairman Martinez's option was like gonna be like 84% to get to the 25,000.
80-some%.
So it didn't really like it's not like even, you know what I mean?
And then you'll never have to deal with it again. It's automatic from that time until they change it or modify it, right?
The percentage could be modified
Yeah.
at some point, but that's the only if.
So,
And that's based on 50% and 75%, you said.
yeah,
Because they're not currently listed there.
Right, and now that I reviewed my language, my language is, there are errors in my language. Somehow I deleted out the counselor references. So yes, it would be an option 4, a modification of option 4 that is a percentage and then a difference between a differential for the mayor.
So the ballot question, it wouldn't show an amount. We would be on the explanation of the question.
Right.
Currently, that number is X, and that number would be X.
Right.
Okay, that's what it would be in the explanation.
Any explanations that city's able to provide.
So how would you put that under the explanation of the questions? So Cassandra, would you work on that document with,
You know, helping me.
okay,
It's a for or against, right?
Yeah,
So
it's really,
it has to
you
be.
put the language, so it's gonna be summary, which is gonna be a change to the compensation of the governing body. Language for or against. The explanation's gonna come in the supplemental materials, the voter guides, the letters to the editor.
you also do those two with his
It's
help?
not on the ballot.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not on the
that's-
ballot.
No, but the explanation would be on
And I've done
the
the
voter guide.
explanation for 19 questions beforehand
Oh.
the last time.
So we're only gonna have two.
And I had to
Three.
sit there and explain to everybody that came in if they needed an
But on the
explanation of
actual
all the
printed
questions.
document, you worked on that too? Okay, well, I guess I'd go one more step. Number one, break down all this information. Currently, the number, that we're looking at is X. The percentage for the city council would be 50%, and that currently is 15.98. The mayor would be to 75% at 22,647. But I want you to go one more step further and put down an hourly rate at 2080 a year
So
on the card.
today
Yeah.
are just the documents with
Yeah.
the recommendations.
I understand.
So in this particular one, you can put in not just the language, but you can put notes, calculations,
To the council.
or additional options that were considered. You have more flexibility here. That information won't make it onto a ballot.
But it'll give them you give them some information.
It'll educate the.
Okay, I guess I'm going too far ahead. I'm going to the voter guide. I want to make sure that it shows what it is. Currently that is this. And then not only that, if we pick number 4, we won't have to deal with compensation again. It's locked in.
Alongside, I can put,
Yeah.
because I would intend to put the percentage calculations that I put for you, for your reference. I would recommend putting that in the final document from you to the governing body. And so next to that, you can put another column of an hourly
Okay.
wage breakdown.
Okay, well, let's get back to the question at hand. Is that a good option? Option 4 modified as we discussed. What do you guys all think?
I'm good with it.
I'm okay with it.
I'm kind of in favor of option 3, just because it always coincides with the county commission.
Oh, at the higher rate?
Yeah, I just feel like it always if given all the duties and responsibilities of a counselor versus a county commissioner, I feel like the duties and the responsibilities of counselors are a little bit more than the county.
Do they get insurance, health insurance?
Yeah,
You do.
they do get
Yes, they
full
do.
benefits, right?
Does the county commission?
I'm
Yes,
sure.
they
Yes,
do.
they do. They
Yeah.
both do.
I mean, if we're gonna shoot for the stars, we might as well go for the the highest one. and
I
see
just
if
think
we
that one's gonna be the harder to sell to the community.
So,
can-
I want them to have a shot. And I think it's easier if we decide for them the best we can. Although ultimately, they may do that on their own anyway, but that's their call. All of it's their call.
Something to think about is this, I'm also in the mode of union negotiations right now, where sometimes in an introductory proposal, they'll shoot for the moon, but come to the middle somewhere. But also, sort of the opposite, sometimes, and I tend to represent management. I'll tell a union, how about you get it in here so that you've got it, and then in future iterations, we can adjust it. So in this instance, I guess the analogy is getting the tie to the commission, just getting that in there. And then, at X percent, and then you can always analyze the ability to move up the percentages. The things that are coming into my mind are probably the change in budget. So under option 3, everybody's at 30,000. And so that's 5 times 30,000, first of all. And if you're upping it to 8, now it's 9 times 30,000.
270,000.
That budget calculation that the editorial board of the Optic and whoever else will do may push it beyond approval.
And what would it be with the percentage that we talked about?
It'd be 15 times 8 at the worst case scenario, or best case, or 15 times 4, and then 22 added to that. So it'd be,
142.
yeah, it's probably there.
So that'd be 127.84 for the counselors. And then you'd have, so it'd be 143, between 143 and 144 total annually.
And we were there before.
As opposed to 270,000.
Yeah, we were there before. Just, if anybody wants to take a reference, we were there before.
What do you mean?
When we had 8 counselors and 1 mayor, it was that number before.
But they were getting 10,000,
Yeah, 10,000.
so that's 90,000. We're looking at 270,000. There's inflation too, to consider.
Well, we're only going up by the 5,000 per annual.
Well, if we went to number 3.
Oh, number 3 would be
If.
high. That'd be 270, right? We
Yeah.
figured that 270.
Yeah. So I condensed those numbers down. Under 4, the modified 4, if you had 4 members, that would cost it, the total payout would be 83,000. If you had 8 members, that's 143,000. Plus or minus with some change there. So 83 or 143 on 4 members or 8 members on a modified option 4. Option 3, 30 times 5 is 150. 30 times 9 is 270. So the numbers you would compare would be 83,000 versus 150 or 143,000 versus 270.
In my calculation concurs, when I mentioned the 120, that's just counselors. That didn't include the cost of the mayor, another 22,000.
Yeah, mine all had the mayor added in. So that's sort of where I get the analogy of, if the most important thing is getting it pinned to the commissioners, maybe it's get it in at a certain percentage pinned to the commissioners, and that opens the door for the next commission to make a recommendation of increasing and maybe eventually moving it to 100,000.
True.
100%, not
100%.
100,000, 100% match.
And I'll say, I do share the same concern as Ms. Arianes. And the other factor consideration in that is that the compensation for counselors at one time, I believe was indicated to us was 19,000. And then was voted down. So we are still not getting to that level of compensation that was at one time the norm or what counselors could expect, right? So, but again, I take the likelihood of it being approved into consideration as well, and I think this is a happy medium in terms of what the voters may actually approve, while making improvement and making it a more equitable situation between counselor and commissioner.
I think I like Gino's analogy about get it in first. Tie it to the county commission. and then let future commissions figure if they can mess with the percentage. Does that make sense? I don't know, I still, I think when I came in here, I had a whole other one in mind. I think I had option one or option two that had 15 and 25. But I think there's actually less money if you consider option four modified, especially for the mayor. He's going down for about $2,300
Going down from a hypothetical.
of 25,000, yeah.
to not.
So I'll leave it up to the members of the commission.
What do the numbers look like? Because I don't know I was out when the exact amount of the commissioner stipend was brought up. But what does the number look like if it's an 80-60 percentage?
Thankfully, I did do those numbers, so that's at the back.
It'd be 18,000.
Oh, yeah, you're okay, they're right there in front of me.
And 24, 156 would be mayor.
Exactly. I just left off the 50, I should have gone lower to 50. Yeah, if you did 80-60, 24, 156, and 18, 117.
And you know, the other thing is, if we look at the 80-60, that's more in line with, that's close to option two, when you look at that amount. And I think that brings us closer to the equity that from my perspective, this group is trying to create between the commission and the council.
All good options, members of the committee. All good options. I just think it probably bodes well for us to strongly recommend one and show them the options.
Right. So, I mean, I will say I favor the 60-80 in the option four.
60 and 80 for the mayor?
Option 4, 68.
60% for council, 80% for mayor.
Is there a concurring second?
We need an actual motion.
Well, I think
Well, I'm
you
just
did.
bringing it up for
After.
discussion.
Yeah,
I don't know if others
Right now,
have,
you're just discussing.
I don't know if others have, I'm just bringing it up for discussion so we could get to a resolution as to what the
What do you think about
commission decides.
60? Because I feel like from where they're at now at 10,000, it's kind of a leap, or no? I mean, I know that we're trying to like get them up to speed on times, but it's a pretty hefty increase.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're, you know, we know the history that it was at 19-ish, maybe 20. And we saw what happened with that. And it's been a lot of years since that happened, okay, 15, 18, whatever.
How long did it last?
Not long, I don't think maybe from one election to the next it was done. It went back down, I think it was pretty quick. So I think we have to do at least our cost of living at some point, you know, because of the
Good
amount of work.
expression too, everyone can understand
I guess the
the reason.
I guess the reason why I bring it up and the cost of living and all those things, you know, wanting like even a young mom to be able to do this stuff or whatever, you know, that's all really important to me. But I also wonder that if the scope or the responsibilities of a counselor aren't being met, you know, to the standard that the community wants them to be at, then I can see why it would drop. You know, it would flop back down. That's more my concern is that, is it like, I mean, do counselors have to serve a certain amount of time, like a day, you know, I know that like the mayor, in previous terms has, you know, practically said it's like a full-time job, but even counselors, do they, you know, are there standards that they have to meet as counselors? Like, do they have to attend events? Do they have to do community service stuff with people in the community?
There are no hours obligations.
Yeah.
There are no hours obligations for elected officials.
Not just counselors and mayor.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, so that would be true of the county commission as well. And from my perspective and just the discussions that I've had with members of the community, I think a decision was made on the counselor stipend without the full knowledge of what the county commission stipend is. So when I've discussed that with with members of the community, they're completely surprised. And I think referencing the commission stipend within the question is going to help educate, to a certain extent, the voter, which, from my perspective, will lead to a likely more favorable outcome in terms of it potentially being approved.
So we can't put it on the question, but we can put it on the voter guide.
Right, right. So,
I wanted to put the hourly rate too on the ballot, but that doesn't work. We have to put it on the voter guide. They already shot me down, Benito. While you were out there, they shot me down.
right.
So since we're all hovering over option 4,
We just need to figure out the
We figure out the percentage.
percentages. Yeah.
Right.
I'm good with 60-80.
I think 50-75 being lower might be more palatable to the people. But I'm not going to oppose 60-80.
Ashley,
Why is it on me right now?
we just want to know what you're thinking. We're not gonna actually vote, or we might at some point. We're trying to narrow the options.
I'm, you know,
To what the county.
I'm on the fence. I feel that that's more of an option that the community would go for, with what,
Make it equal to.
yeah, no, with what Miss Britt is, expressing. I think that's what the community would probably go for. But I also see the plus side of getting them up to, you know, where the commission is. You know, I guess my concern or my worry is just, I hear it a lot in the community where people say, well, what do they do? Or what are they, you know, why should we increase their pay when they don't show up to this or they're not here? And that's why I keep asking, like, is there requirements or is there hours? Is there, you know, something to kind of justify an increase? Not just because it would be, you know, in line with what the county is, but also like, I think a lot of people in this community don't really, a lot of people in the community, at least in my opinion, and then what I've come across, are also shocked at the county the county pay being increased that much, because they also have the same questions of them, like, well, what do they do? What's going on with these natural disasters? You know, you get that pushback a lot, and I guess there's the argument that, or the debate that they should be in line with the county still leads the question to the community, like, okay, well, what other incentive is there to increase their pay? And that's why I think if we do, you know, pass this, I think the big concern is, how are people gonna take it, and how do we introduce that idea that, hey, if we increase this pay, more people are gonna wanna run, or maybe this is an incentive for, you know, a different variety of counselors. Like, that's where the selling point needs to be, we don't need to always like pinpoint the pay, but we need to focus on, why are we increasing it? Why are we increasing counselors? Why are we, I guess that's more my, but I'm fine with either option if you want to know like what my answer is. I'm fine
Okay,
with
so let's see, can we do this? Gino, go ahead.
Yeah, the clerk had a really important point.
Okay, go ahead.
The 2020 election.
During the 2020 election, the compensation increase went to the people to be equal to the county, and it failed.
Yeah. They didn't sell it either. Nobody
Piece
even
of
knew it was,
information.
they didn't know that question was on the ballot till they showed up to the voting.
What year was
Nobody,
They-
2020, they didn't know anything about it. I know they didn't, because everything since then is lost,
The
right?
information went out. I mean, the question, they came in, we explained it.
Yeah, but I don't know if we got
There
to
was
the bulk
19
of it.
questions, so
Yeah.
that's probably.
That's a lot of, that's a
And it was the
problem,
last
too.
question.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a problem too.
what was the pay in that one, or the compensation? Was it?
It was
Whatever the
just
county
equal
was.
to whatever the county, yeah.
Do you know by how much it lost?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. It just failed, yeah.
Yeah, the last election, 3 of them failed, I think.
But by how much is important? I mean, it's okay, we don't know.
No, I think it was substantial. It was more than 50 it wasn't 50, it wasn't 40, 60, it was like 70, 30. From what I can remember. I did the election results. So, why don't can we do this, Gino, if you don't mind? can we recommend the 60-80 and the 50-75?
To the council.
You could do two recommendations.
Because we're torn between two options.
Well,
Not to paraphrase that song, right?
Well,
We haven't heard from
right now, we're
Benito.
in the middle of discussions.
Right,
In a moment, you're gonna get to recommendations, so you could vote on a 75-25 or an 80-20, and, I mean, once you go to vote is when you're gonna know what.
So, what's your perspective, Mr. Chairman? Is there one that you favor over the other?
It's really, this is a tough one. You know why? Because when Ashley made that comment that we're only attracting a certain demographic to be on the city council or be mayor, that changes everything. That changed my perspective that one day. Because you stop and think who's been serving on council for the last couple of decades. You don't have young people in there. There is no young people. I don't know when the last young person was on the board, on the council. And I'm saying, well, you've got to be able to attract a different demographic of leaders. These are future leaders, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to, segregate them out of the equation. But I don't know. I guess I'm in favor of both. I can go either way. And I think tying it to the county takes care of it once and for all, and we don't have to mess with it again. Now, if the future commissions want to, future elected officials want to put together another committee, they can modify the percentages. But I did get impacted by Ashley's comment of, look who we have. I'm not trying to downgrade anybody. I think we've had some incredible leaders in our community the last few decades. But I'll tell you, at the end of the day, look who's missing. Where's Waldo?
What's your opinion?
Well, as I stated earlier, my perspective and the one I favor is option 4, 80-60 breakdown. But I'm agreeable to the second option of 75-50 as well. So I just favor one over the other, but could accept the second option as well.
So we threw a coin in the air. What would you call Cassandra? Heads or tails?
Mayor and council has to make the final, so give them the two, option 4 with the choice of the different percentages.
My concern on sending two options to the council is that we're, from my perspective, kind of passing the buck. I think it's a decision that should be made here, because it is a financial decision that impacts them personally. And that can be, whichever they pass, it could be looked at as a positive or negative. And how does that impact the voter?
And
Right.
I think going along with what you're saying, the one thing that's kind of making me question a lot of this is that we do have upcoming elections coming up, and does that mean what about the educational aspect of this? Like, how do we educate the voters come election time? Is there how does the material go out to them, or how does the information get to them? Because I also think that the point of who we have going up for these positions is the real selling point of that kind of a price, a compensation. I also don't want it to look like if we give the counselors two options, like they're doing what would be best beneficial to them, you know what I mean?
Passing
And
the
peop-
buck.
yeah, and then of course, people in the community will be upset about that. So I really think that how we get this information out is kind of important. So I don't know, how does this info go out to voters beforehand?
So radio is one, word of mouth, the optic we use. I know the different wards get their information out in their different areas. So just social media, I mean, all of that.
Are we allowed to talk about it, like the charter commission?
It's recommended.
I was like, are we allowed or are
Yeah.
we not? 'Cause I-
No, we are. It's
You
recommended.
you can go over the radio.
That's fine.
I can arrange all that, if you guys want. You know, I know that.
You don't wanna pass the
I know
buck,
the
you
janitor.
wanna own the decision.
Yeah, I
Let's
think
go
you're
ahead and
right.
own the decision then.
And if that's the way it's gonna work, because, you know, because we don't wanna put the, I don't really wanna give the
Yeah.
counselors the choice, then yeah, I'm in favor of the 80-60. But I also think that the work from here to voting time
Needs
is,
to be put in.
it needs to be put in, or else it's gonna fail. I don't think there's a chance that it'll pass at all if it's not publicized of why we made these decisions.
Whether the city chooses to do so or not, or has the budget to do so or not. I've also seen governmental entities do mail pieces that explain each of the questions. And so there, you know, there is always that option. I advise, because it causes too much controversy, I advise against saying vote for if the city's paying for it and publishing it, but just saying vote on this day, here are the questions, and here's our explanation of the questions.
More informational, and we can put that in the utility bills.
Well, and I also think that if we allow people to understand that it's for the future, you know, not for the current, what's going on now, the current administration, this is gonna affect outwards, you know, not right now. I think that plays a big role, but another question that I had as well was, what was it? I mean, do candidates get to talk about any of this during like their, or so I guess I feel like we're also shooting the gun before. So this is gonna be put up to the people to vote, but even as far as counselors are concerned, is this something, I mean, they're the ones that get the final say, and if they turn down one of these options and they turn down our whole charter, right? I mean,
We've divided
No.
into
Divided
three
it.
questions to
No.
prevent that.
okay,
Three ballot issues.
So the procedural changes will pass. Like more likely than not, right?
with the city council, yes.
Yeah, the second one
governing
is. Sorry.
8-4. I mean,
Yes.
4-8.
4-8.
And then the third is the compensation.
Yeah,
So we're good on 1 and 2 for heat within this group. We just need to now, I think, own it and
And if the
Push forward
governing
the
body,
percentage.
and if the governing body decides to, like, no, this probably won't pass, so I'm gonna deny it, then it still goes back to the 10.
Right.
Right.
the
Yeah, it
10
would
language
revert
stays
back
in.
to original.
If someone like the League of Women Voters were to put out the ballot issues, they would put pros and cons with each issue. We could do that, only make the cons really weak. I didn't say that.
yeah, I didn't hear anything either. I hear nothing. I'm Schultz now. So I think we just need to move forward with it. I think we need to own it. I think Benito's right and Joseph's right and Ashley's right and and Meredith is right and I'm just here as the chair. So,
Well, it seems to be either 50-75 or 60-80. May I ask the group, is anybody really, really strong for one over the other?
I mean, I think if we're gonna not give them an option, then 60-80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we were gonna give them the option, then,
it's the both.
yeah.
And they still have a shot to do that.
68
They,
then?
Yeah.
they could still adjust it themselves, but
I think 60-80,
Go ahead and
Yeah,
book it,
they can.
60-80.
yeah. So.
we'll get to that
I-
on the motion.
If I add quickly in my head, it sounds more majority 60-80.
It does.
So I'll entertain a motion if that's the route we want to take.
Let's start with the first question, if we're moving on to new business.
No, but, we're just sort of taking an informal for this one, of the compens, right?
Yeah,
Is that
so
okay?
it's not a motion. You're not
So it's,
voting.
okay, is there like direction? Hypothetical direction, okay?
Yeah, I think you've just pulled them each.
Okay,
Yes,
60-80.
So now we're on to new business.
okay,
okay. It's implied.
okay.
I've never been in an implied meeting before, but I think they all are, right? Okay, so now we're done with discussion and our new business is to vote each article one by one?
Each category, one by one.
And then, so the first, for question number one, right? So I think we've gone through all of Article 1 through 10, right? So can we do a blanket motion for that?
It's on the agenda, the actual question.
How come my agenda doesn't say this?
Agenda, he's looking at.
So I don't know, I got one from the 1800s.
What did you pull?
I got the old agenda. Hey, what are you doing here? Okay, there we go. Oh my God, I feel, I was going off of that one.
You must have pulled it from your
I-
own packet.
Imagine the chairman's not on the same page. It's all the same except till you get to new business.
Yes, sir.
Okay, ballot question recommendations for consideration. Number one, approval of administrative language and law changes in the municipal charter, which would include Article.
2 through 10.
Yeah, 2 through 10, yeah, okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve all of the work we reviewed today
The edits.
with the edits that we provided as well. So
I'll second.
there's a motion by Ashley, a second by Joseph. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying, or do we, roll call?
Let's go ahead and do a roll
Let's do
call
a
on
roll
this.
call. Go ahead.
Okay. Commissioner Brett,
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Arianes, Commissioner Dominguez,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacheco,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Arianes and a second by Commissioner Dominguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Next item is approval to go from 4 city council members to 8 city council members
As it relates to Article 2.
as it relates to Article 2, as per our legal counsel.
I so move.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Dominguez and a second by Commissioner Arianes. Roll call.
Commissioner Dominguez? Yes. Commissioner Arianes? Commissioner Brett?
Aye.
Commissioner Pacheco?
Yes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dominguez, a second by Commissioner Arianes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion carries.
But I wanted to vote too.
Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. Commissioner Martinez?
Yes. Next item, the final item. If there's nothing else on this sheet, I better double check my new agenda here. Approval to adjust the compensation for mayor and council. And do we have anything to say verbally, Gino, on this? Is it-
Approval to adjust compensation for mayor and council under Article 2?
Under compensation.
Yes, under Article 2, compensation with
Recommendation.
With a recommendation
Whichever.
of option 4, right? With 60% for city councilors, 80% for mayor.
I so move.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion in 2 seconds? Roll call.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
Commissioner Pacheco?
Yes.
Commissioner Brett?
Yes.
Commissioner Arianes? Commissioner Dominguez?
Yes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Arianes, a second by Commissioner Pacheco and Commissioner Brett. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Motion carries.
Okay, so let me just, first of all, I want to thank each and every member of this commission for the days, the hours, sometimes in search of the actual meeting place, because we were in the back last time. And we didn't even have our clerk, we had an assistant to the clerk. So I think we got through
was
that.
also great.
And it was also, what do you call it, a birthday for Commissioner Cruz. But nonetheless, I'm so grateful for the work you all have done on this commission. And then above and beyond that, I want to thank Cassandra for putting up with us through all this process. And in her own little quiet way, I know that she got all the stuff she was looking for us to consider, because she's not too vocal, but I'm sure she kept poking our legal counsel on the side of his ribs if he got too far off the beaten course. And then I also want to thank Gino for the amazing work you did on this work. I'll tell you, this is my third commission, and the work that we did on the first one was amazing because of initiative, referendum, and recall. and the fact that we became a home rule community and all the work that went into that. And that was 11 members of the community that was on that commission. The work that was done in the second Charter Commission, some incredible work that was done there. I think we had fewer recommendations than the council actually put on the ballot, but that's their discretion. That's up to them. And in consideration of all the work that you've done, Gino, I'm so amazed at how you could keep up with us and on the fly because of technology, you're able to research stuff pretty quick. And the fact that your vast interest and background in, in governmental entities like the cities and counties and school boards is invaluable. So our community benefited from your wisdom and your experience. So I'm grateful for that. And I thank you very much. And I know you have to get to another commitment, but I'm very appreciative. And I also want to thank Commissioner Cruz, who's not with us today, but it's an amazing amount of work. So I'm going to go back to Cassandra and ask, so we've approved the document. It's ready to move to council. So I know we're not probably in the agenda for next week. Could we typically be in the agenda for the second council meeting in May?
Yes, I will get with the mayor and we'll discuss that, and then I'll get back to you.
Okay.
What
And
is
then,
the date of that?
It'll
That,
be
I
the
believe, is the
s-
21st, I think. Let me see, whatever that second Wednesday is. Let me check my calendar.
Tell you I'll
The
be
21st.
available by Zoom on the 21st. Which is fine, but just FYI, I'll be available by Zoom.
By Zoom? Unless there's a special meeting, right? And we'll leave it up to the mayor to decide that. Okay. Any other comments before the commission? Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up?
No, but just point of clarification, our next per se meeting would be with council.
Yes.
The work
Would be
for the
attending council.
would be attending council, not an official meeting in charter capacity, be attending council meeting.
Yeah.
Right. I only have one hyper-technical question. Do we need to meet again just to approve the minutes of today's meeting?
I think our actions took care of it, wouldn't it, indirectly?
Well, not another meeting to approve this. You've approved everything to go to the council. The only hyper-technicality
Minutes.
is to approve the minutes of today's meeting. You would need to meet again.
Could we do that on the same day of the city council meeting?
Can we do it by email?
You could do it right before.
Yeah, we could do it right before.
We could do it right before the meeting.
Can't do it by email because that's a really important.
Yeah, like
It'll only
15,
take
like 15 minutes till
a couple
the
minutes.
council meeting?
Okay.
Let's do that then. If that's how it's proper. Benito?
I was gonna just say that works great for me.
Okay, well, let's see if we can plan that. You let us know. Okay, if there is no further business before this commission, again, thanks all of you for your hard work and dedication. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the 6 months of work that Cassandra put together and legal counsel assisted every step of the way.
And so move.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
I thought for a minute nobody wanted to go. There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
You guys are amazing people, man. Where's our IT person?
I'm always in a sec, yes.
Oh, you're gonna be in there too much, right, Lorraine?
I don't know how many little clips. Look how big my book got.
Meetings about this, because you're
Yeah. I'm always there. Yep.
Nice work. I'll see you.
Joseph.
See you soon.
Joseph, thank you, sir. Appreciate it, sir. You be good, don't drive too fast.
Set us up on the radio and.
Yeah, don't worry. If you all want to, I need to.
We'll talk a little bit about Iris and a little bit about the charger.
Thank you very much, Meredith.
Thank you.
Get out,